Hello, everybody, and welcome to the NERRS Science Collaborative sneak peek video for the Resilient Roads and Reserves project. I am joined today by three wonderful members of the reserve system. We have Dan Brumbaugh, who is the Coastal Training Program Coordinator for the Elkhorn Slough National Estuarine Research Reserve. We have Amy Good, who is the same position at the San Francisco Bay NERR, and Kristen Goodrich is with the Tijuana River National Estuarine Research Reserve. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Grant Lyon. I also work with the Elkhorn Slough Reserve, and I will be moderating this discussion. So the Resilient Roads and Reserves project is focused on the connections between the flooding of coastal roads and habitats in the California NERRS. Why did we pick that topic, and why did we decide to work together?
I'll take that. Road flooding affects all three reserves and their local communities in multiple ways. It's already a periodic problem, but with sea level rise, it's just going to get bigger and bigger over time if not addressed. And although there are an increasing number of groups looking at the challenges posed by road flooding nationwide, few of those are looking specifically at how road flooding intersects with the management of natural lands, such as the National Estuarine Research Reserves and other ecological reserves and state parks in California. So we felt we could add that element to the conversation here in our state.
And how we decided to work together, having the same position at our three different reserves across the state. We realized that we were all tackling these problems and at different stages in projects working on it. So there was really a great opportunity to learn from each other, and also for Tijuana River and San Francisco Bay to help transfer some of the knowledge that we learned to Elkhorn Slough, who's a little earlier in their development.
Who does coastal flooding affect? Why do we care that roads get flooded sometimes?
Yeah, thanks for that, Grant. As Dan and Amy mentioned, each of our reserves are affected by flooding, and we care quite a bit about it. Communities and natural resources are affected by flooding in many, many ways. But at Tijuana River, our flooding situation is a little unique. Mostly our flooding is driven by rain events, and because of where we're located in a binational context, oftentimes those flooding events are coupled with sedimentation and marine debris eventually becoming an issue for the natural resources in the reserve. And so flooding becomes an issue for us because it impacts access to a park in the most southwestern part of San Diego and on the US-Mexico border. And it prevents issues for communities to access that park, interpret that park, and experience and recreate in that park.
Mm.
A unique element in San Francisco Bay, we're engaging with the local tribes because they actively gather and visit and use the park, and the natural resources and cultural resources there need to be rediscovered. So they're not well documented, not well known, and we want to ensure that they are protected from any projects going on in the future.
At Elkhorn, our reserve is embedded in a pretty intense agricultural region. And so the road flooding affects businesses and livelihoods. It affects people getting to schools. It affects public safety. And then it affects access to a local waterfront park where both visitors and locals from those ag communities can fish, launch boats, walk, and experience a quiet slice of nature.
California is somewhat unique in the National Reserve System in that we have three reserves here in the same state. What does bringing together the three California reserves deliver?
Well, as Amy mentioned earlier, it gives us the chance to learn from each other. And then we have a really powerful partnership that will allow us to synthesize and share the knowledge and capacity of our three federal state partnerships with natural resource decision makers in Sacramento. Mm. This will also highlight the small but mighty reserve system as a resource for the state.
Yes, we love that. How will this current project help change the current situation with flood vulnerable roads?
Well, in the face of climate change and increased and more severe storms, we're highlighting through this project that road access and habitat issues are connected. We can get better at addressing them jointly in more efficient and proactive ways and think of them as coupled efforts that address the human dimension as well as habitat restoration. And through this transfer, I think we can contribute to more intentional and inclusive approaches to these really great challenges.
How are you going to accomplish that?
we have some big goals. We hope to highlight this issue by developing our own reserve-specific case studies, looking at similarities and differences in our projects, extracting the cross-cutting knowledge, and thinking about how to best package this for the various local and state audiences, like Dan mentioned earlier. So some of the key outputs that we hope to share out include a synthesis report. We're going to be holding a large community stakeholder workshop at Elkhorn Slough, and then following that by developing issue briefs and holding meetings with research agencies at the state level in Sacramento.
Awesome. Well, we all look forward to all those products. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I would also like to note that these are 3 key members of the Resilient Roads and Reserves project, but we do have other members as part of the team, and we like to refer to ourselves as the R3 team. So, you know, if you want to take us out here by chanting R3, R3, R3.
R3, R3.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Grant.
Thanks, Grant.